Hello everyone, this is MC Deck Discussions and I'm Abby Small, and today we have another deck discussion. It is called Wiccan Forever, and it's a Hulkling deck with 41 cards in leadership. And the title, I'll start off with that right off the bat. So this was inspired, or I should say Solo Marvel Champion inspired this title based on Black Panther being in the deck, you know, the whole Wakanda Forever thing. And then the fact that Wiccan is supposed to be recurred regularly in this deck. So hence the name Wiccan Forever when you combine those two things together. All right, so let's go ahead and first look at Hulkling. In his hero side, it has the traits Avenger, Kree, and Scroll. 1 thwart, 1 attack, 1 defense, 13 hit points, hand size of 5, and has this ability here, Chosen Shape, Forced Response. After a Shapeshift upgrade enters play under your control, discard each other Shapeshift upgrade you control and ready Hulkling. And then in his alter ego side, he has this Kree and Scroll abilities, traits. Notice he loses Avenger on that side. He has a recovery of 4, hit points 13, and hand size of 5. And then you cannot have more than 1 Shapeshift upgrade in play. And basically that's on both sides. Since he is in fact changing shapes, it makes sense that the other shape, he wouldn't be 2 shapes at once. And he has the Shape Changer ability on the alter ego side, a very powerful ability. Action, search your deck and discard pile for a Shapeshift upgrade and add it to your hand. Note that he has a hand size of 5 on this side as well, but because of his Shape Changer ability, he actually can always get a 6th card, and it's always a double resource or a playable upgrade. So those are his abilities to start with. And so, as I said, this deck is meant to recur Wiccan, and here's the reason why. So he has this, first of all, he's 2 cost, wild resource, 1 attack, 2 thwart. Let's go ahead and click on him. Oh, it doesn't show a picture of him anyway, so I'll just stay here. And he has this response: after you play Wiccan from your hand, search your deck and discard pile for an identity-specific event and add it to your hand. So that ends up being very powerful because these identity-specific events can be very good. So there's the Armored Defense. Defense is superpower, has a hero interrupt. When an enemy attacks, deal damage to it equal to your defense. And then after this attack, you give Hulkling a tough status. So that can be really nice. So you don't prevent any damage with this, but you get a tough status afterward. And then Impersonation, 2 copies of this, right? 2 copies of the other one too. Hero action, a thwart. It costs 2. It's a superpower and thwart, by the way. Okay. And the other one is also a superpower and defensive card. Remove 4 threat from a scheme. If this removes the last threat from that scheme, you may change to alter ego form. So that can facilitate going to alter ego side, which is going to be an important element of this deck. And then he has the Shape Changer, only 1 copy of this, but it's a 0 cost card, superpower traded, and has the hero action, search your deck and discard pile for a Shapeshift upgrade and add it to your hand. And so the Shapeshift upgrades are essential to this deck, so I'm going to go there next after this. And then he has Shapeshifter Strike, an attack and superpower that costs 2, hero action, deal 5 damage to an enemy, ready your Shapeshift upgrade. And then, so we'll start with that. Those are his own events. And then, so if you look at his upgrades, he has the Armored Shape, and notice it gives Hulkling +1 attack, +2 defense, and he gains Retaliate. So he initially has only, 1 attack, 1 thwart, and 1 defense, and all of these Shapeshift upgrades end up enhancing various, in various combinations of those. And then they all also have a hero response. So this one has the hero response: after you play an event, exhaust Armored Shape, heal 2 damage from Hulkling. And coming back to Shapeshifter Strike, so when you play this one, if you've already played another event, and then you play this one, you get to ready it, and then so you would get to ready this Armored Shape afterwards, and you get to use the ability again. So this way, when you play Shapeshifter Strike, you have a chance to use the ability twice in one turn. And then we also have Hulk Shape, which gives Hulkling. All of these cost 2, by the way, and they're all double resource cards. And Hulkling gets +2 attack and +1 defense with this one. And after you play an event, exhaust Hulk Shape, deal 2 damage to an enemy. So these are 2 of my favorites for sure to play, especially against tougher villains, because this first one, it can be nice to start off the game with if you're really worried about keeping your health up. And then the second one is a great one, definitely when you're trying to finish things off, to be able to do lots of damage. Okay? And then there's Imitation Shape. This is the one that is the least likely for me to play. And it gives Hulkling +2 thwart, which is very strong, of course, but it has a force to interrupt. When an enemy would attack you, it schemes instead. So like the Nick Fury hero, except you don't get a benefit, an additional benefit from them scheming instead. So that one could be pretty risky in solo play, at least. And then it has this hero response after you play an event: exhaust Imitation Shape and draw a card. And then Wing Shape is another very good one too, that I did play pretty regularly, depending upon the villain that we're facing. Hulkling gets +1 thwart, +1 attack, and +1 defense, and gains the aerial trait. Has a hero response after you play an event: exhaust Wing Shape, remove 2 threat from a scheme. So this was a good one to start off with if you had a villain who first of all started off with lots of side schemes, or if things started getting out of control and you just need that extra threat removal, then Wing Shape might be one that you end up replacing your old one with. And remember, when you play one of these when hero form, it readies Hulkling. So that gives Hulkling another chance to attack or thwart. All right, so all of that information is background information that's meant to set up why Wiccan is going to be recurring, and how he is, right? So the reason why is right here, right? You can search your deck and discard pile for an identity-specific event and add it to your hand. So very often I would end up choosing the 0-cost one, which is the Shapeshifter one. And you can search your deck and discard pile for a Shapeshift upgrade and add it to your hand. So then you have a double resource card that you just added to your hand to help you play whatever's in your hand. And then, sometimes this might be the time when you would change out what Shapeshift upgrade you have in play so that you can ready Hulkling and be able to make another attack or thwart, or be able to use a different ability, one of these different abilities when an event is being played. Okay? And then, but you won't always choose that, right? Maybe what's in your hand isn't the best thing at the time. So instead of choosing the 0-cost card, maybe you need to get rid of a minion, or you're taking your final attack against the villain. And so you want to grab Shapeshifter Strike and deal some damage. Or perhaps you are in a dangerous situation with regard to thwart. You can grab Impersonation and go to your alter ego side, which has the additional benefit that when you go to alter ego side, you can use the Shape Changer ability here and search your deck and discard pile for a Shapeshift upgrade and add it to your hand. So all of those are great possibilities. I never chose, I should say almost never. I think I did once in a while, but I almost never chose armor defense. I was much more likely to choose the others. Most of the time choosing the Shapeshifter upgrade, but like I said, there are times when other choices were better, especially because you have 4 of these upgrades. So if you have one in play, you essentially have 3 others that are available as double resource cards. So if you already have one of them available as a double resource, then you might want to choose something different. Or you might want to choose something different because you have Alien Physiology in play. So Alien Physiology is his 3-cost upgrade that's a superpower card. And as a resource, exhaust Alien Physiology, generate a wild resource or a double resource instead if you're paying for a Hulkling card. So if that's in play, you have all the more motivation to very often go with Shapeshifter Strike or Impersonation as needed. All right, so highly valuable to get Wiccan into play. So how you get him into play multiple times? Well, we have 3 copies of Suit Up in this deck. And as I mentioned, that can be facilitated. To play Suit Up, you have to go to Alter Ego to do that. And then you search your deck and discard pile for an ally and an upgrade that can be attached to that ally and add them to your hand. which makes, and because Wiccan is cheap to play, that can be very valuable. But the great thing is that with impersonation, that's a couple of turns there where you have the ability to go to alter ego. And then right afterwards, after you get Wiccan, you have the ability to come back to your hero side. So it's really nice being able to use impersonation for that. Though we do also have Professor X in the deck, to be able to confuse the villain and be able to go to alter ego side as well to help to facilitate that happening as well. In addition, we do have 2 copies of Regroup. So that might get Wiccan back into your hand. But Wiccan wasn't always the highest priority for Regroup. And sometimes, there are other cards that were higher priorities, but the vast majority of the time when I was using Suit Up, it was with Wiccan. Okay? But these regroups, they can get Wiccan back into play, but they can also get any of these other allies who are in play back into your hand. And so that's very important too, right? So Regroup has this interrupt: when an ally is defeated by an enemy attack, return it to its owner's hand instead of discarding it. And it stays out for the whole round and gets discarded with this forced interrupt at the end of the round. So there are other allies who might be more valuable to get back to your hand on hero side in that case, right? So let's get into who those other allies are. So we have Black Panther, right, who lets you play an event attached to Black Panther as if it were in your hand. After Black Panther enters play, let's go ahead and get the visual here. After Black Panther's enter play, choose a leadership, a blue card event, in your discard pile and attach it to him face down. And we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 choices of that might possibly be on our discard pile to choose from. Okay? And then we have Iron Lad. I'm going to come back to Iron Lad. We have Kalu, 2-cost card. After Kalu enters play, search the top 5 cards of your deck for an event, add that event to your hand, shuffle your deck. And I never whiffed once when I played Kalu, right? There are 16 events in this card, pretty high probability that you're going to get one of your, an event in one of those 5 cards. And these are, a lot of very, very valuable events. Then we have Nick Fury for the, possibility of drawing 3 cards most of the time. Although I did finish a game, when in the demo play that I have that'll be coming out in a little bit after this is a couple days after this video is released, I did in the final play do where he just dealt his 4 damage to the enemy and then attacked him, and so it did 6 total damage there to finish him off. That was, by the way, that gameplay video that's going to be coming out is it's going to be against Expert Thanos. Okay. All right, and then we have already mentioned Professor X. We have Ronin. I'm going to come back to Ronin. We have White Tiger. So after you play White Tiger from your hand, draw X cards where X is equal to the villain's stage number. If the villain has no stage number, draw 1 card. So White Tiger was another one that I would prioritize for sure for Regroup, especially when we're playing against an expert villain, and especially if they're in their third stage. So then, you can really maximize that card draw. Nick Fury was a major target for that too, for Regroup. And of course, I already mentioned Wiccan for that too. But but there were times when it was Kalu and even Iron Lad. So lots of great choices for that. They all have a lot of value. So, like I said, I wanted to come back to Ronin and Iron Lad. So we already mentioned what Suit Up does, right? It gets you an ally and an upgrade that can be attached to that ally. And so Ronin is meant to be a major target for one of those upgrades, right? So Ronin is an Avenger, 2 attack and 1 thwart with 3 health, but Ronin gets +1 thwart and +1 attack while an upgrade is attached to them. So as soon as an upgrade is attached, then Ronin has 2 thwart and 3 attack. Okay? So that's why we have these many upgrades here that are possible for that. So the 3 main ones being Inspired, that can give Ronin an additional +1 thwart and +1 attack. Okay? And then Reinforced Suit, that can give Ronin an additional 2 hit points. And then Sky Cycle, that can only be attached to an Avenger and gives them the aerial trait, but more importantly, you can exhaust Sky Cycle and ready the attached ally. So then Ronin would be able to attack or thwart twice in a round. Okay? So those are meant to, the vast majority of the time, go on Ronin. Here and there, it was pretty rare. I played I think 9 games altogether with this deck, and I'll get into who those villains were later on. And it was really rare for me to attach one of those to somebody else other than Ronin. Ronin was by far the main target for those cards. Okay, but one of the cool things. So here's why Iron Lad was great in this deck. So when I had Ronin out, and if Ronin was getting to the point where they were about to die, because if they attack, one more time, if I get Iron Lad out, right? Iron Lad has a 2-cost ally, so you can get Iron Lad out very cheaply, and has 1 attack and 1 thwart with 3 health, and has an interrupt. When Iron Lad uses a basic power, exhaust another Avenger ally you control, and Ronin is an Avenger ally. Add that ally's matching power to Iron Lad's power for this use. So you can get Iron Lad out there, and Ronin, whether Ronin's almost done with all of their, hit points or not, you can still use Iron Lad, exhaust Ronin, and then add that attack or thwart to Iron Lad's attack or thwart, making it a very powerful one. Plus, Iron Lad can do that twice because it has 3 hit points, or even 3 times, right? And then because we have not only 3 copies of Suit Up, we also have 3 copies of Make the Call, and we can easily get Iron Lad back out and continue to do the same thing and keep Ronin in the game indefinitely. So that didn't happen in a lot of games. I did have a lot of games. The vast majority of the games, Ronin did get an attachment and was staying out there. It wasn't always true that Iron Lad was in helping to enhance that, but Ronin didn't always need it either. All right. So that's it for the allies. And then for the other event that I haven't mentioned yet, we have Face the Past. Pretty nasty side scheme combined with, what do you call it, a Nemesis minion. And it's very much nicer to use Face the Past to get that Nemesis minion out here. I never had every single time I used this, I had no trouble at all. The minion has 5 hit points. And if you allow them to attack you, it can be, it can be actually it can be a fairly devastating attack because it has a lot of extra thing. You discard a card and it has extra abilities for that. So getting out with Face the Past, it was very easy because either with the allies combined with Hulkling attacking, or having Shapeshifter Strike coming into hand, especially if you just played Wiccan. So it was very easy. I had no trouble taking care of that villain every time when I brought them out on purpose, especially because, Face the Past lets you draw, ready your hero, and then draw 3 cards. So Face the Past was really nice in this deck. I did play my first game or 2 without Face the Past, and then once I added Face the Past, I definitely noticed a difference. All right. Okay, and then Make the Call is meant to recur other cards. Typically, my main target was Nick Fury, but there were times when I would want to bring in somebody else. Like I mentioned, there was Iron Lad, but I could also sometimes want Professor X so that we could confuse the villain. Okay. All right, and then player side schemes, we have Call for Backup. Which is, once again, meant for Nick Fury to get that 3 card draw. And then we have Superpower Training, whose main purpose is really to get Alien Physiology into play. So I mentioned that card before. That's this very powerful resource generator, 3 cost. So getting that in without having to pay that 3 cost. And so to have that valuable resource generator is very powerful. Okay. Notice no resource cards in this deck. Right? I let all my resources for this leadership deck come from, or my double resources be provided by the double resources available on these shapeshift upgrades. And I kept getting shapeshift upgrades into my hand because I was playing Wiccan regularly from my hand, and then utilizing, like I mentioned before, Shapeshifter very frequently. And then that allowed me to have multiple times getting these upgrades as double resources back. And then for my supports, I already mentioned there are 2 copies of Regroup. Originally, this had no copies. I'll mention the deck refinements that I did, the removals and additions. But originally, I had no copies, and then eventually I had 1 copy, and it was proving to be too valuable, and I ended up putting 2 copies of Regroup in. Okay. And then Mighty Avengers. So all of these characters, all of these allies are Avengers, and Hulklings and an Avenger went on the hero side, except for Nick Fury and Professor X. So Mighty Avengers allowed, when it was in play, allowed us to have even 1 more thwart and 1 more attack. And then we also have Quinn Carrier here. And then for our upgrades, we have 2 copies of Clarity of Purpose. I already mentioned the other 3, but we have 2 copies of Clarity of Purpose, one of which is meant to be played to use as a resource generator. And it can be really cool to utilize this as a resource generator to deal damage to Hulkling, and then have the Armored Shape in play when you play, and then you end up you use Clarity of Purpose to play an event, and then that event then heals 2 damage. So that was a pretty cool combination that occurred regularly. And then the other Clarity of Purpose is there to provide an extra, to make sure that we never run out of a card to use Suit Up with, in case Inspired, Reinforced Suit, and Sky Cycle were all in play at the same time. That was a rare thing. It didn't happen very often. But sometimes the other thing is that, sometimes we didn't necessarily have in our hand, if we did bring in somebody into our hand with Suit Up, it was rare for that to happen. But let's say if I wanted to get Professor X, so sometimes I did want that with Suit Up, so that I could confuse the villain. If I had only Sky Cycle left, then that can only be attached to an Avenger ally. So I wasn't able to bring that into my hand. So instead, Clarity of Purpose always could go on any friendly character. So that was always available to be used. Okay? All right, so that's it for as far as the deck is concerned. Then for the villains play tested against, it was undefeated against all of them. And this was used in order to refine the deck, and you'll see that I had made a lot of refinements as we went. And we had Claw, Ebony Maw, Thanos, and Magneto, all in Standard and Expert tested against. Okay? And Thanos had an extra time in Expert because I used that. I wanted to have a nice, viable recording for the demo play, so I played Thanos the extra time for that. And then for the deck refinements, when I played against Thanos in particular, I removed Professor X and added Gambit in place of him, because Thanos has Stalwart, so it can't be confused. And then as far as removals were concerned, so over the course of the game, originally I had Avengers Tower and United We Stand. Those came out pretty quickly. And then we had Yellow Jacket, which I thought would be a really great addition, and probably was. There were 10 upgrades in this deck, was just quite a few. But every time I played Yellow Jacket, so taking a look at Yellow Jacket, all right, you can play only if you have the Avenger trait, right? So on the hero side, response: after Yellow Jacket enters play, search the top 5 cards of your deck for an upgrade and add it to your hand. Every time I played him, not a single time did I find an upgrade. So he whiffed every time. It's not like it was a bunch of times. It was maybe only 2 or 3 times, but whiffing is not fun. And I decided that we needed some more room in the deck for other cards that I wanted. So I removed Yellow Jacket, but I could see somebody wanting to put Yellow Jacket back in. Maybe, with others, they won't have bad luck like I did. All right, and then the other one I had removed was Avengers Mansion, because I figured I could get Avengers Mansion in relatively easily with being able to grab those doubles. And I did get Avengers Mansion in a couple of games, maybe, but I just found that it was more valuable to put in the regroups and get card draw cards like White Tiger and Nick Fury back into hand, and then draw cards that way. And so Avengers Mansion, I found time and time again, the vast majority of games, I was just passing it up. I didn't get rid of it till kind of near the end, and it became apparent that it just wasn't being played as much. I think if I had some double resources in here, I would have played it more. I did have originally 2 different decks that I tried out, originally against Claw, both in standard and expert. Some of you may have seen those 2 decks that I originally created. And the other deck had some double resource generators and some double resource cards. And so I did actually seem to get what is that card called again? Avengers Mansion. And so in that deck, it was definitely worked out well with Avengers Mansion. But in this deck, the deck didn't need it, and I removed it. The additions then, originally I didn't have a call for backup, and that was probably more an oversight of anything. I just didn't think of it. And then I added Face the Past. I mentioned that before, that was a big boon when I added it. And then eventually those 2 copies of Regroup. At first, 1 copy for a while, and then it was proving really valuable, so I added a second. And Strength and Diversity as well. So Strength and Diversity, so I don't even think I mentioned this one yet. So Strength and Diversity has this, it's a 2-cost card, hero action for each different trait on friendly characters in play. Choose to remove 1 threat from a scheme or deal 1 damage to an enemy. So originally I thought, well, this is Avengers deck, so it's not going to be that great. But Hulkling does already have 3 of these traits, and the majority of these cards have an extra trait at least. So Black Panther has Wakanda, but when I play Nick Fury, right, there's 2 extra traits. So at a minimum, I was always having it available for at least 4, and it has that flexibility of removing a threat from a scheme or dealing 1 damage. But a lot of times I was actually being able to do 6 or quite a few times I was able to utilize it there were 6 different traits in play. And one time I think there was 7 or 8. And so that ended up being very powerful. And having just a one-off like that was really nice. And it was a nice target for Black Panther. So that worked out well when I did find, by the way, for those of you who might be curious, I didn't play Black Panther a lot. It was just in these few times when I was like, oh, now is a good time to play Black Panther. And I would play him, some double resources that were out and play him pretty easily. And then grab that Strength and Diversity, hold on to it till the next round. Of course, might make the call instead. But just so you know, Black Panther was the least played of these allies, but was still effective when I did play him. It was nice having him there for the times when I needed him. Okay. All right. So those are the deck refinements, and that should about do it. So like I said, it was undefeated, but the other part that counts that we really care about is how fun is it? This deck is a ton of fun. So Hulkling, I think, is just going to be fun, and I'm really looking forward to playing it in the other aspects as well. But this idea of recurring Wiccan was when that hit me, I was like, oh man, I'm really curious about just how good this is. And this is just such a fun deck, recurring Wiccan. Yeah, it's nice recurring, other cards too, like Nick Fury, of course, get that card draw, which helps to set up Wiccan more frequently. So that was part of that nice combination. And White Tiger too, right? When White Tiger was in my hand, getting that extra card draw, so I had more opportunities to play Wiccan from my hand, both because he would be drawn, but also because of the suit up cards or coming back to my hand with Regroup. Just made it, having all these cool decisions to make every time Wiccan gets played from your hand, which of these which of these events am I going to grab and play and strategize? I highly recommend this deck or something like it that give you a chance to see how fun it is to play Wiccan a bunch of times. All right. So hope you enjoyed that. Please make comments. I love, if you wish to, I love having conversations with people in the comment sections, and have a good one.